Hey guys, I have another saber to demo for you today. This one was put together for Leo. It is a older one. It is a original run of the KRSabers Luke Hero. This is not the latest Eco Hero. This is the original hero that ran. Or it might be the second one actually. This one's from about 2015, we think, maybe 2015, 2016, something like that. But yeah, it's on the older side, which meant that installing it was a little bit of a pain and it needed a custom solution. So let's talk about what we did. Let's work our way down. So top section, this is how the blade plug sits. It's flush. There is a modification you can do to the cup on the inside, or you can install the neopixel emitter in a holder that will allow you to use the full depth of the blade of the emitter piece. Because obviously with this being a thin neck saber, emitter depth can be a problem. But what we ended up doing is going for a recessed blade setup, so then we can have the blade plug sat perfectly flush. I'll just show you what that looks like. It's using a cup that it comes with already, like the internal cup that it was supplied with. So that just pops out. And then you can see the neopixel. It's a stock V3 neopixel, stock V3 neopixel connector. That's in a custom printed little holder. And the reason that we did it this way is because then you can get a bit more blade depth as opposed to having the blade sat on top of a emitter holder piece, which would then reduce the amount of blade depth you have available to you. So to go along with it, we have a matching recessed blade. This is just like a mini test recessed blade that I did while I was trying to work out the tolerances of this lower piece. You can see blade PCB sits in there, and this will work with any neopixel setup, but obviously only a recessed blade will fit in this, because in order for this to work, the pins have to be lower down as well. Otherwise they would make contact with the inside of the blade plug and that would cause problems. But this blade will literally just go in. When you're putting a blade in, because I haven't thread locked any of this stuff down, make sure you apply some rotation as you go down. So rotate it clockwise on the way down, and then it will go down and stop, and it won't go any further. And then you can use Allen key to tighten it. It's a 1.5 mil Allen key. So the pins are making contact. They should be, but we'll find out in a second. So let's talk about the chassis. The thing that we were going for when I was designing this one was to make sure that we could get a removable battery setup out of this. I like sabers that have recharge ports, and all of the existing chassis that I found for this one, I say all of them, there were about 3 that I could actually use. They either had a recharge port or a removable speaker at the bottom. Good ideas, but I don't think they would have worked in the long run for this particular hilt. They may well have done. I'm sure there are people out there that have chassis for the Luke Hero that are performing fine, but also we were trying to do this on a budget. So it seemed like the cheapest solution was actually to design and print one myself, rather than get a fancier one printed via Shapeways or commission somebody else to do one. So this is what we ended up doing. And I'll show you how it works. This section up here, the threaded grenade section, it unscrews. And once this is unscrewed all the way, you'll see your Proffieboard. It's a Proffieboard 2.2, which sits there, and there's a connector here which connects with a blade PCB up inside the hilt, up inside the emitter. This piece never comes out. This is affixed in. It's held in place using a modified screw that sits under the clamp card control box setup. So don't ever loosen this unless you want the chassis to fall out. And then there's a second piece to it, which is this lower bit. The entire lower pommel section here, the vented speaker section, unscrews. And when it's unscrewed all the way, it reveals this lower section, which contains a battery connector, and there's more pins up inside there. So this lower piece holds a 18650 battery, a kill switch, and the speaker, as well as this battery and speaker connector there. And this kind of lower sled then goes up inside and fits inside this part of the upper section of the chassis. Wiring the control box into this and getting a design that would work with the control box, because obviously the control box is static, it lives in this middle piece, was a bit of a pain, but got the geometry right in the end eventually. Really happy with it, it works really nicely. so hopefully this should last you plenty of years to come. The control box itself, we have the red and green blinkies, and they're all wired up and programmed to do the Luke cave scene on all the fonts. And then we've got 2 buttons underneath the clamp card. Getting these dialed in was a real pain. The buttons that were provided with the kit were totally the wrong length for whatever reason, so I sourced some buttons that I had, and then there was a lot of back and forth, kind of shaving a bit of the button off, testing the fit, sanding the button down a bit more, testing the fit, checking that it actuated properly when the clamp card was installed, checking that when you press on one side of it, it didn't lift the PCB up on the other side and click the other button. There was a lot of back and forth to get this control box section working. I can officially say this hilt was not very installer friendly in this middle section, but we got there in the end, and the new Luke Eco that's come out has a fully removable chassis and is a way nicer system for the buttons and everything. It's really, really impressive. But this I have to do in the meantime, because this is the hilt that Leo had sentimental attachment to, so I said I'd install it for him. So to get this thing up and running, take your lowest lead piece and a battery. Got 2 battery terminals. You've got the positive, which is the nipple side, and the negative, which is the flat spring side. And then negative of the battery, positive is the nipple up there. So nipple to nipple, in this case, it's the positive pointing down towards the speaker. Pop that in. It is pretty snug. So when you're getting the battery out, what I like to do is get a pair of plastic tweezers, something non-metallic, slide it under the positive tab and just flick, and then it'll pop straight out. But it is intentionally snug so that the battery doesn't come loose inside the hilt while you're swinging it around and stuff. And then when the battery's in, flip the kill switch to the left is on. Obviously, without it being attached to the Proffieboard, you'll have no way to tell if it's on. So be careful. If you want to be extra sure that it's not on when you're storing it away, take the battery out. It's the safest thing. But apart from that, kill switch to the left means it's on, kill switch to the right means it's off. So flip it on, and then slide this piece up inside the middle section. It won't make contact with anything for the first kind of couple twists, and then you'll hear it.
Search your feelings, Father. You can't do this.
You can screw it all the way up. When you're turning it, you might feel it kind of grates a little bit. That's just the pins on the PCB kind of popping their way around. It's not going to break anything if you tighten it all the way, but it's also not going to come loose if you don't fully tighten it. So I would kind of, if I just unscrew it so you can see. So there we've lost connection, and then I'm going to screw it until we make connection.
Bob, this is your last chance. Free us or die.
And then I'm just going to screw it a little bit more. I'm not going to go crazy tight with it. It's not going to come out, but I'm not going to like crank it down because that could cause problems. And you see the blinkies doing the cave scene, red and green. Everything up here is powered now. When you've got a battery in and the kill switch is flipped, don't touch anything here. Try not to touch the pins if you can. But the cool part about this chassis being in such a modular design means I can actually show you it working like this. Very loud. And then you can take the middle section. Obviously, I would leave this middle section on at all times. There's no real reason to take this off unless you're looking to change the fonts, do any sort of flashing up there. When you're plugging this into a computer, you will need to use like a right angle micro USB because the gap between these two edges is quite slim. But you can get some low profile micro USB cables. Twist to activate, so be careful. Screw this down all the way. And then we should be ready to go. So the font setup is what you requested, which is obviously, given this is a Luke Return of the Jedi saber, the main font that will start when you boot the saber up is the Luke Return of the Jedi font. It's the Return by Kyberphonic. And then we also have, following that one, an Anakin font. It's the Chosen One by ksith, which is Anakin from the Revenge of the Sith. And then a whole bunch of freebies. We've got, I think, every single grayscale font that he's released. All the freebie ones, they're on there, all with unique blade styles. And then we've also got the entire Kybers Workshop package, which is about 7 fonts, all with different colors and different sounds. The Return and the Chosen One, which is the Luke and the Anakin fonts, they have tracks associated with them and quotes and things like that. The saber is using the FET263 button prop, so I'll send you a link to that one so you know how it works, how to operate it. But there is a track player, so I can just show you that now. If you hold it parallel and press and hold. These are Return of the Jedi tracks, nice and loud. There we go. Yeah, so really happy with how the chassis on this one came together. It's incredibly loud because the speaker is kind of, there's a little bit of a gap between the bottom of the pommel and where the speaker is, so the resonance chamber is really nice. So this saber packs a huge amount of punch for just given what it is. It's a 28mm speaker, Proffieboard 2.2, some accent LEDs, 2 tactile switches, a battery connector, kill switch, and 2 blade PCB connectors. And that's pretty much it. I can run through some of the fonts just so you can see some of the blade styles and how it works, but I mean the operation of the saber is pretty simple. The power is the top one, the auxiliary is the lower one. Auxiliary to cycle through the fonts, you can, when you're holding it upright and you click auxiliary, it'll go forwards through the list. When you hold it downwards and click auxiliary, it'll go backwards through the list. You've also got gesture controls, twist. So it's twist on, twist off.
Skywalker.
Red. Green. Blue. Purple. Yellow. White. Mercenary.
I think that'll do for fonts. There's plenty on here. There's about 20, I think, in total. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Given the fact that it's an older kit and there's kind of some improvements that have been made in the later kits, this was kind of a pain to install, but we got there in the end. Really happy with the chassis solution. If you have any questions, any problems you might have spotted with it, give me a shout and I'll get those changed before we send this out to you. Otherwise, I hope you're happy with it. Thank you for commissioning me to put this one together for you. It's always fun to work on a Luke Hero. It's like my favourite saber. I've got 3 of them at this point. And it was nice to see one of the older ones, one of the older designs come through. It's a really good hilt. Really happy with the way it's come together. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. May the force be with you, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.